Okay, Peter, item number 9, the organisational performance results.
I've been asked to introduce this by giving a little context to the group of reports that you're seeing, and that's especially, I think, for the new councillors. So just to take a moment, you get 3 reports as a group here. The first one is the organisational performance report. It's meant to be an overview of the vital few performance targets for the organisation. So it's things like service delivery, capital delivery, budget, and so forth. So it is a report against targets and shows past performance trends. The second 2 are finance and capital reports, and they're much more granular, much more detailed. They're not based on targets. They're about the information about what's happening at a more granular level. So that's the purpose of these 3 travelling together. I head up the corporate planning and performance team, so we'll be spending quite a bit of time together on the annual plan and LTP. But this is the other end of the pipe. This is how we're going against the last LTP. That's what our performance reporting is based on. So, moving to what's in the report, there's not a huge amount of change from last month. I think that's because largely the circumstances that we're in have not changed that much in a month. Levels of service are much the same. They are slightly above target. We have had some continuing effect from COVID, particularly things that involve international visitors, so galleries and museums. But there are also staffing impacts on staffing. As you're aware, COVID is back in the community in some force and schools. That has the same effect on our staff as it does on the rest of the community. We've got people who've had to patch together rosters and maintain services even though they're suffering from the same problems that everyone else is. We're also suffering from the same things that every organisation in New Zealand has in terms of difficulty in recruiting quality applicants. They're just not out there. There's complexity and fatigue. So I'd just like to acknowledge all those people who've maintained their services while a lot of organisations have actually not been able to. In terms of capital, both watchlist and non-watchlist projects are up slightly but still below where we want it to be. Now, you've been across the reasons for this ad nauseum around supply chain issues, Ukraine, COVID, logistics, and so forth. That doesn't show any particular signs of changing that set of circumstances in the short term. The capital report will go into individual projects in much more detail, but overall that situation still remains. Capital planning, which is feeding the other end of the pipe to make sure we're ready to deliver, is still at a relatively low level, but that is actually relatively normal for this time in the cycle. If it continues to stay low, we'll bring that to your attention and seek some remedial actions. But at this time, it's on the cusp of being a concern. Financially, in terms of operating expenditure, we're in surplus to the tune of 2.4 million. That's not as big as it sounds, but it's still on the right side. And of course, capital spend is a little lower in keeping with capital delivery than we'd like for the same reasons that I just explained. So again, not a huge amount of variation from last month, but what is different is that you'll find a large attachment to the report called 6-month update to elected members. Now you may recall when the annual resident survey came out, council went through the results, and in particular the chair was keen to see comments from staff about how they interpret those results relative to their service that they're running and what they intend to do going forward. Now, in some cases, they're high performers, and what they're doing is simply saying, this is how we're going to maintain high performance. In other cases, it's not so good, and we're seeking from them the remedial actions that they'll take. Now, you got a report in May. The request was for a 6-monthly update, and of course, this is it. It's extensive, but that is because of the sheer breadth of our products and services. So please keep in mind, not everything in here is a big fix. There are things that are already high performers. I don't intend to go through it page by page, but obviously you'll have areas of special interest. A lot of the information in here is subject matter expert and quite technical. So if you do have a question, I probably prefer that you flick it to me and I can work with the head of service to come back to you rather than trying to sort of wing it on the day against a very, very detailed catalogue of remedial actions. The key thing here is to provide you with assurance that staff, particularly managers, heads of service, are focusing on this and actively working towards a better set of results next time round, and explaining to you transparently and to the public how they intend to achieve that. So I hope that answers your query. So look, that's the vital few in a nutshell. I won't labour it because there's not a lot of change. So I guess it's over to you.
Thank you, Peter. That's really useful, and that is a great report as well in terms of talking about how we can change some things going forward. I just had one, but I'm noting your comment about flicking them to you as opposed to doing it on the spot. It was probably around in that report around the roading and the footpath conditions and some stuff, but perhaps I might take that offline and set the example. Does anyone else have questions for Peter? Yanni?
Sorry, I thought we were getting a comprehensive report back on the footpath condition assessment, like why we stopped assessing it, how we were going to catch up, etc. Is that still happening?
So, if I read that correctly, we took money off budget in 2017, so we stopped doing it, but we've reinstated it, and it'll be done by May of next year.
Yeah, at the last meeting when we discussed the performance, I thought we were going to get briefed on kind of what was happening. I mean, just to give you an example, like I just went and looked.
No, don't worry. Lynette,
so my understanding is you've had memo back. If it hasn't, it's in the pipeline to come back to you from the team that were here at the last meeting when it was requested. Yeah. Getting a briefing slot.
Okay.
That information has come back to you.
Just
my
a memo.
understanding.
Okay. So like.
But just on that, Yanni, though, if in there it talks about how the fact that they obviously stopped it in 2017, but then we'll effectively have that condition assessment by May 23. If I'm
footpath condition is a very difficult thing to collect, and it's very, very expensive. So we're working through solutions at the moment.
Yeah, but am I right in saying though we're going to have
we have a lot of information, so we are combining it all together, and they are building it up. That's what the memo.
Yeah. So if you recall, yesterday we had an excellent presentation from the Three Waters Department, and they had that really cool, condition assessment, all the stuff that we've done around infrastructure assessment. They gave a really good description of how they were working out what the priorities were based on the technology and all the stuff that we'd been, know that we've been doing for the last 5 years around condition assessment.
Yep.
So, but I mean, I was just interested around the footpaths, around if there's any ability for staff. Like I just went and looked at a cycleway project last night, and the cycleway looks great and people are really happy with it. But the footpath next to it has got holes everywhere, is uneven. And you just kind of wonder, is anyone looking at synergies around where we're doing works to look at the footpath and do it at the same time?
I think Peter's got something to add, and then we'll...
Just to recap, there's a repeat of last month's advice in the staff advice, which is funds have been secured in a condition rating for 1,100 footpaths contracted with surveyors, and there is in parallel work with the University of Canterbury to develop state-of-the-art technology around this, plus the briefing that Lynette's referring to.
Yeah.
So I think.
Is there something else you want? Because we can.
Yeah. So just at a simple level, in terms of like when we're doing projects, I've been given several examples from the community where we fix the road. Yeah. But
I get completely your point. What exactly is it you want from the elected council today?
So, I just wanted to understand from staff in terms of addressing that dissatisfaction, if there's anything we can do in the short term where it makes sense around looking at a holistic approach to some of our projects.
So we'll get Lynette, can you...
So, the classic one would be cycleways, where we're spending a lot of money on the cycleway delivery, and actually in the adjacent corridor, there may be footpaths that are in pretty terrible condition, that are, maybe they're just being left for a reason, or maybe they're going to come back to it. I don't know, but it would seem a sensible
let's
thing to
hear
do.
from Lynette.
Yeah.
So there have been... So first thing is, Peter pointed out the list of information that's coming back and the changes that we are making around footpath condition assessments. Footpath condition assessments are difficult because you literally have to walk them in order to do it. So they are time consuming and expensive to get that information, and we are working on gathering that information. Because we do not have a legal option for putting a vehicle down a footpath. So just to be really clear on that one. With regard to looking at synergies, as we have discussed, and I've discussed on many, many occasions, I know this is new for some of you, but some of you it's not. We look at synergies on every single project, whether that's within our own unit or between units at council, or opportunities with our partner companies such as Orion and others. We do our best to achieve that every single time, but that doesn't always mean it happens, and I'm okay with that as well, because we have a limited budget that we have to make decisions on sometimes. Another piece of information that I'd like to pass on to the council today, which has been around for a long time and been passed on to councillors that have been here for a long time, is that when we do cycleway work, there was an assessment done a number of years ago. Approximately 30% of that is benefit that is outside of the actual cycleway facility that we're building. So yes, it is improvements to roads, footpaths, undergrounding utilities, all the other things. So approximately 30% of the work. Now that would go across a lot of our projects.
Yeah, I've just been shocked to see some of the places where we have done cycleways.
Yeah, so does that answer your question?
Well, not. Can we get? Maybe I'll just put in the examples, and then you guys can. I'll send them around and send you the photos, and then maybe you guys can decide.
Yep, send them to
you want to do something.
Can I ask that the councillors, please, if you see something like that, or there is a fault, that you log a snapsend solve, because that goes to our contractors. They then get the information, and then we can action it. Sending it round the organisation, it takes a lot longer to get to the contractor. So log a snapsend solve, take a photo, log it, and put it through. We monitor the snapsend solves, we monitor the hybris tickets, and we then look at where we're getting a lot of tickets, and that helps us prioritise our work.
You've made, that's good. Okay, Mark, and then Aaron, and then Phil, and then Tim. Just bear in mind I'm going to be calm for the first minute. Bear in mind the purpose of this report as well. That's when you're asking your questions.
No, certainly do bear that in mind. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just developing that slightly further, one of the recently completed cycle routes through High in Hornby, just noting the second half of the road that's been left behind from that, where you've got this wonderful new cycleway, which is going to be good in time, but the rest of the road is left in an absolutely shocking state. And it'd be good for us to get that idea going forward as to how we can try and alleviate the nice, beautiful cycle route versus the left behinds, and the plans that we can have to catch everything up would be useful.
So if there are, unless I've got something wrong, if there are specific examples, Lynette's saying, firstly raise them, but secondly, the capital performance report is also probably the place that this is more about, unless I've mistaken it for the last couple of years, the levels of service and everything. So it's that holistic view of council and where those are. So I'm not saying it's an invalid question, it's probably needs to be staggered down the line. So on that basis, does anyone, Aaron, you got a question? Or is that?
Well, I personally blame Yanni for opening the hornet's nest of footpaths, Mr. Chair. But on that hornet's nest, the new mayor had a suggestion around a roving work group that did footpaths all the time. Is that possible? How would we progress that going forward?
Can we suggest we bring this up in the capital report in regards to transport? Is there any questions in regards to the performance report that Peter has actually
Once again, I blame Yanni.
So thanks, Leah, but I can probably do it. Tim, yeah.
Thank you. Peter, technically away from the hornet's nest, with regards, and I asked this question last time when it was mentioned about going to the university. Now, if I'm correct, developing a program or system to assess the condition of footpaths, is that what we're doing there? And that's in partnership, or is that paying the university? Yeah. Could I get some information on that, because I'd like to get some information on how the process of that.
Cool.
Well, this may not be the forum for it, but that's a question I asked last time.
No, good point. You'll do yours great. Melanie?
This is just about one of the building regulation measures, auditing 20% of building stock, and then it says how many audits have been carried out, but it doesn't say the percentage, so I can't tell, how good or bad that is. 138.
If you just bear with me for a moment. I don't remember all this stuff off the top of my head.
It's the top one on that page.
So, warrants of fitness. Is
Yeah.
that the one?
Yep.
61 audits year to date.
Yeah, but it says that the target's each year to audit
Yeah,
20%,
okay.
but I don't know how many buildings we have, so what the percentage is actually.
There's a mismatch there between percentage and number. So look, I'll sort that out, and I'll send the final figure back to you.
Great. So on that basis, I'm happy to move this report. Are you happy to second it, Yanni? You got another question?
Yeah.
Melanie's happy to second it. Okay. What's your question?
Cool. Just in terms of the page 137, it's the regional sports organisation satisfaction, and we're not meeting the target, and it says remedial action, and I just want to commend staff. I think the remedial actions in this report are really good. Like, they're a lot better than what we've had previously, and they do give us a sense of what work is being done. I guess I was just concerned under the remedial action on that particular measure that there's no time frame put in around a sports network plan, and I know staff have been working on it for a very long time, and some of us have been trying to get it developed so that it can inform our budget spend. So I just wondered if it was possible to get a time frame. Like, I know staff have said that it'll be ready to inform the LTP, but I guess I was more interested in how we're communicating with the sports codes who are aware of that plan, who are making submissions probably to our annual plan and to boards and to council around the time frame of that being, draft, consulted, and then adopted.
Okay. So that's fine. Andrew, can you take that offline and have a look at it? Sure. Great. Thank you. Okay, so we've had that moved and
Oh, and then there was another question. I don't know. It's just the inner city parks as well. Like, just seems that we seem to have a problem with Otakaro's planting, and I wonder if we're getting any information about the additional costs that we're faced with around increased maintenance. I think this is just on page 136. Original planting by the terraces installed by Otakaro Limited are not performing well season to season. And it said we need more planting and infrastructure, including replacement with alternative, more suitable species. So I'm just concerned that that might have a financial impact on us, and to understand the scale of what's proposed.
So do we have a defect liability clause for plantings? Because that's not silly, is it?
Yeah, good point. Okay, so we'll get some information on that as well. Really neat thing, I suspect. Great. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Oh, you got a question? Oh, you want to discuss it? Yep.
I actually just wanted to take the opportunity to thank staff. And the snap send solve that Lynette brought up is absolutely awesome, particularly in Riccarton. So I just wanted that to be noted. Thank you.
Very good. On that note, all in favour? Against? That's carried. Excellent.